Hi, everybody. I am delighted to introduce Owen Purcell in today's webinar, where we're going to explore the technical backbone of the SmartTech 247 managed data security offering. Now, in today's session, we're going to have a laser focus on DDR, which is data, detect, and respond. Now, while the security landscape is saturated with acronyms, we do not need another three-letter acronym. DDR, in my opinion, stands apart. It's not just jargon, but I believe it's a mission-critical framework, which is crucially important for modern organizations as they are navigating, I would say, unprecedented risks when it comes to data. I believe that DDR matters now more than ever before because businesses are really challenged by trying to harness the power of generative AI. They're trying to feed their data into proprietary large language models. They're trying to operationalize AI at the core of their business, for example, Microsoft Copilot. They are challenged with compliance with tightening regulations like GDPR, NIS2, SEC, EU AI Act. So I guess the stakes have never been higher. And having been in this industry for a long time, the truth is that traditional detect and respond models are no longer sufficient. That's why DDR is the evolution which organizations need. It's a proactive, real-time approach to identifying, contextualizing, and securing data at the moment of risk versus post-breach. So, in today's session, I'd like to talk to Owen, who's a subject matter expert, about the AI-driven core of DDR, how AI is so powerful in analyzing data flow patterns to, detect anomalies and so forth. Real-time response mechanisms such as automated actions like access revocation, policy enforcement, and how that works to reduce the dwell time from days to milliseconds. And then obviously, look, something that I'm sure a lot of people tuned in today will talk about: the regulatory alignment, ensuring that we can demonstrate compliance with evolving mandates by mapping data lineage, access logs, risk posture in real environments. But I guess ultimately we want to tie it to use cases that resonate with the people listening. And the type of 3 use cases I've picked for you today, Owen, are data loss prevention for overshared data, both internally and externally, insider threat detection and mitigation, and access governance, how that works with DDR. And then I guess the automated classification of data, is it regulated, is it sensitive, and so forth. So Ona, as a guy who's a subject matter expert in this space and has deployed this technology and operationalized it for customers all over the globe, super excited for you to demo this for us today.
Yeah, thank you, Ronan. I'm looking forward to bringing this to the forum today. And listen, let me just resonate. I think some of the points you made there really stand pretty strongly. So, in the data space that I've been working in for many years, organizations are facing many challenges. So there's a number of mandates that organizations are grappling with at the moment. So we've got generative AI and we've got third-party ecosystems. So we've got accelerating innovation that's coming hot and fast in the AI space right now. Plus, we also have unprecedented data sprawl. Data is growing exponentially all the time. So it's what we're storing in Google, it's what we're storing in AWS, it's on servers, it's on endpoints, it's on Microsoft 365. So the attack surface where all our data points are, they're all becoming more exponentially exposed. So if we look at generative AI, what we're attempting to do is, first of all, understand what data we have. If we're going to be putting these Gen AI models, if we're going to get an understanding of getting these into other third-party tools, we really need to have a strong foundation of knowing exactly what we have. So the data detect and respond is going to give us just that. It's going to get to the core of our data, and it's going to give us the insights and intelligence we need to make sure we're properly safeguarded. So on DDR itself, it's just not a tool. It's a monumental shift in how we're going to do and manage our data. So we're transcending traditional threat blocking technology, cyber perimeter technology, whereby we're looking at real-time alerts, real-time analysis as they happen. So from file creation right through to file lineage to the whole life cycle of our data. So that's really important, because if we're enabling secure growth within our organization, data has to be our crown jewels. It is our
Yeah,
crown jewels.
I think you've hit the nail on the head, right? Selling traditional security is selling insurance. I think when you move to DDR, right, you're looking at operationalizing tools that help a business to scale, to grow, to do more with less. So DDR isn't just another security tool or three-letter acronym. It's a capability that's allowing a business to embrace growth securely and operationalize these very powerful tools.
No, absolutely. And not only that, it's bringing us from where we've typically and conventionally been from a reactive security standpoint to being more resilient and more proactive.
Totally
So
agree.
not just waiting for something to happen, something bad to go wrong, but having the knowledge of knowing what we have long before an error comes up, long before an issue arises, whether it's, as we said earlier, when we go through some of these use cases, whether we're oversharing data, whether we've got insider threat, or whether we've got issues with identifying our data. So having that resilience is exactly what we need, and it's exactly what we'll walk through today.
Okay, so let's jump into our demo. I'm excited.
Sure. Let me just share up my screen and I'll show the DDR platform. Okay, so we'll start off here by laying some foundations on where our data would typically reside. Again, we discussed earlier, it's in multiple, it's in cloud, it's in on-prem, it's in data warehouses, it's pretty hybrid. So our tool is pretty far reaching. We can have a look at various different data sources, and of course where we can find your data in those data sources, we're able to stream and we're able to get all of this real-time real-time inline analytics on where we're at. So some of the data sources, as we described, we've AWS, we have Office 365, Microsoft 365, on-prem, Google, and there's a bunch of other data sources as well.
Could we have a look? I mean, one of the most prevalent file collaboration platforms is SharePoint. How about we start and we apply some of those use cases we discussed to SharePoint, so that the people tuned in today can get a feel for how they could operationalize this technology within their own environments.
Absolutely. So the initial stages to actually getting it set up is once we've got the credentials to be able to activate this connector, then we've got all of the discovery capability. For instance, we're going to use SharePoint Online as our example. We can bring in all of our resources like our SharePoint sites, our Teams channels, our document libraries, and we can include OneDrive as well on this as well. So we can encompass that whole microsystem of data in all these repositories on SharePoint Online, and we can break them into either one large bucket, or we can break them into individual sources. So the devil's in the detail, where we can drill into individual sites, we can drill into access controls, and again, we can see that we've got data that's streaming from these sites as and when it happens. So if any of our users or any of our staff or any of our employees or contractors that work within our SharePoint Online, once they're creating files, or editing files, deleting files, moving files, we'll get these alerts in real time as they happen. So setting them up is pretty straightforward. There's pre-prescribed credentials that are inputted onto the tool, and then the tool has amazing discovery capability to be able to draw everything in from SharePoint Online.
So can we jump to some of the use cases?
Absolutely. So we'll have a look first from the point of view of sharing data. So again, just to give a very high level overview, we can see the data coming in again, we can manage data coming in by the minute, by the second, by the hour, by the day, by the week. And again, we've got multiple sources. So let's have a look at some examples of data that's coming in real time, and we can show the details that we're getting in. So again, if we look at and again, these are all ingested in real time as the events happen. So whether these files are newly in creation, whether they're modified, whether they're shared, whether they're moved, again, we get these events in real time. So looking at the particular events, so we've got details on the users and groups that have access to this data.
I presume this is all dummy data, right?
Yes, of course. Yeah, this is
Yeah,
all sample.
okay.
This is all sample data.
So for example, if a document is created and that document contains personally identifiable information, which is regulated under various different mandates, and if I let's assume for a moment I have a public link to that document and it's created in real time, will this generate an automatic alert to the Security Operations Center?
It absolutely will. So we've got the ability to feed all of this data and all the events that we are collecting through this platform into a SIEM as well. So again, these can go into the Security Operations Center as real-time events, just like we have for typical cybersecurity tools. So we now get these events live from our data point of view. So we get the timelines of those events and alerts in real time as they happen.
So within, if I have a concern around oversharing of PII data, how long does it take to operationalize this technology in a SharePoint environment with that specific use case, oversharing of PII, because I have a regulatory mandate that is punitive if I'm caught doing that?
So again, and here is where the proof of the pudding is. It's almost instantaneous. Once we set up the connection into the environment, we're getting that data back into our dashboard, and we're getting so many touch points on the actual data itself. So we can pull in the metadata, we can auto classify the data, we can determine if there's PII, PHI, or PCI data within the contents of those files. So again, as soon as we have the event,
Owen, is that the core AI engine within the DDR that is making that determination of the contextualization in real time?
Absolutely. So we can look at content and contextually analyze the files that we're bringing into the platform. Again, we can have a look at it from the point of view of factor of risk, file classification. We can get compliance and regulatory tags on these files. We can use conventional regex and detector hits for finding credit cards, bank statements, personal information, health information. We get the metadata of the files. We can check who's accessing them, when they've been modified, where they're stored. Again, there's some of the many touch points in data that we can flesh out in these very extensive tables and dashboards. So these are all fully customizable. So we can give the views to the risk, which is to the flavor of the audience.
So it feels like in that single example, you've covered almost 3 of the use cases, right? You've demonstrated how AI is contextualizing the data as it's flowing over the network. You're giving the real-time visibility into how that data is flowing. And based on the policy that you want to operationalize, you can decide and determine where that alert goes and how the enforcement action like access revocation is managed by an organization.
Yeah, so I can actually show you. So from the collection of the data to the alerts as I mentioned, the touch points in the data. So the elements of the risk, of the elements of the regulatory content in the data. So we have these dashboards that actually show you the amount of these alerts that are happening in real time that actually get pushed through our controls orchestration into an external source. So we can set these up where they're going into a security operations center. We can get them emailed to an administrator. We can get them sent into a Teams channel. So there's multiple avenues on how we get the alert into an actionable remediation path as well. So it's fully covered. So from the DDR alerts, we can move into our controls orchestration page where we can set up all of these alerts again, we can customize them, or we can have...
Can you give me a hypothetical example? I am an organization who deals with very sensitive intellectual property. Maybe it is in the form of a complex set of ingredients, or maybe it's in the form of software code for a specific initiative. If I have a policy and that policy dictates that data should only be stored in a specific location and only specific individuals should have access to that data, how quickly can we set up or operationalize that policy within our orchestration engine? And how quickly can we start getting alerts should that be breached?
So it can be done as quickly as you've just described it. So once we have the prescription for that particular alert, so we have a particular type of data in a particular location, and we want to have a look at a particular condition if the file moves or if someone accesses it, again, we can build out that into one of our GQL queries. So, you know, it's a widespread technology. You're going to build out the query, you'll apply the query, you'll see the results in real time as you have them. And of course, after that, then you're setting up your action plan after that as well. So it ties right into a whole incident and response plan as well. So we have the alert, we've built out the command, we've set it up on our controls orchestration, and we've set our action, all done literally in a matter of minutes.
Wow. So in terms of the return on investment that an organization gets here, it's not just the fact that the moment you turn this on, you're immediately seeing value in terms of risk mitigation and probably governance compliance, but you're also arguably empowering growth across the organization, which is a strange thing to say when you talk about cyber or InfoSec, because you can now ask the question, are we embracing AI safely and securely? And depending on what your policies are, what data you want to use for training, what users you want to have access to the very powerful models that you operationalize in your business, this gives you that real-time visibility into how that works.
Absolutely. I think there's power in knowledge. With knowledge comes great responsibility, and this is what the tool is going to do for us. So we're building the business intelligence and the data analytics that we need if we're adopting Gen AI programs, if we're going feeding our data into other third-party tools. And again, it's something that's needed for growth. For growth, we're going to need tools, and we're going to need more efficient ways of getting our business intelligence. So if we're going to be using our data to do, we need to know exactly what's in our data. So
yeah, and I think you said it you said it very well in your introduction. This is a paradigm shift. This is not just about another 3-letter acronym, which is selling fear, uncertainty, and doubt. This is almost a fundamental requirement now, given that we live in a Gen AI era, and the fuel for that era is your data, and how you allow that data to be accessed, how you track it, how you monitor it, how you implement security guardrails around it will determine how well organizations are from a security perspective overall.
No, absolutely. And again, to reiterate that, I mean, as we said earlier, so data sprawl is one of the biggest factors that a lot of organizations do struggle to get a handle on. We need to look at our data from an internal and an external point of view. Who's using it? Who's got access to it? Where is it going? What's it being used for? What's the content of it? And what's the context of it? So with a tool like DDR, we have all of that oversight at hand, which is really, really empowering.
Okay, Owen, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for your time.